Hey everyone, it's your favorite host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today I have the incredible Miss Karlesha V. Hewitt, Esquire, coming to the stage here to drop gems. She founded Wisdom Child Consulting in 2023 with the heart of a teacher and a pure heart of gold that you all are about to find out. But she started this company, this foundation, founded it with a heart toward equipping people with the tools, resources, and wisdom needed for life-changing empowerment and long-time financial stability. And she is blessing us with the honor today to share some nuggets, share some insights, share some tips, and continue to serve and give back. And we have her here on the Gentleman Style Podcast stage, and I'm going to ask her some tips and strategy on how she paid off student loan debt, how we can improve on our financial literacy, and do it all within a reasonable amount of time. You won't want to miss 1 second of what she has coming to the stage today. So, without further ado, I can't hold this phenomenal woman back any further. So I want to get into it. Help me welcome to the stage the incredible Miss Hewitt.
Wow. Thank you for that introduction. I'm so grateful to be here and grateful to your audience for locking in.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for you because what you do and what you're doing is helping us. It's helping move the needle. It's helping us in a society that seems to be moving the goalposts further and further away. But you have unlocked it. You have unlocked the secret to financial literacy, living a better quality life, and doing it within a reasonable amount of time. And you are not moving the goalposts. But first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about your background, your upbringing. Was mom and dad affluent? Did they instill all the wisdom and the nuggets about financial literacy? When did it kick off for you that you had the gift to serve others and give back?
Okay, so the start is first generation Jamaican American household, right? One of the first people in my family ultimately to become an attorney, to own a home. So pioneering a whole lot. I didn't really come from money necessarily. I would say we teetered back and forth between lower income, upper, middle class, right? Just depending on the season of life. But two, immigrant household family. And so there wasn't a lot of talk about finances unless there were arguments happening, right? Between my mother and my father. I often say that what I learned about financial literacy really came from what my parents modeled for me. And so what does that mean? Well, I learned that to pay the minimum payment meant that you are a responsible adult. So my goal with finances, because of what I came from, was if I pay my bills on time, I'm a responsible adult. And that's really because my parents spent a whole lot of time arguing about bills. So I knew it was important to pay your bills on time. But otherwise, I'm pioneering this thing too, right? It's the start of something in my bloodline from my direct immediate family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What nuggets did you pick up growing up? Any gems, anything that you learned back then that you had to change today, that you wouldn't change or you realize you had to change in order to be who you are today? Any financial tips, habits that you used to do and you no longer do? What's something that you had to change about yourself?
So I'll say this, right? It's always better to actually have than to look like you have. I come from the kind of family that really values name brands, right? As kind of like this status symbol of, so if you got the Louis Vuitton, if you got even the Coach, because back in the day, Coach was a big thing, right? In my household, if you had certain name brands, if you drove a certain type of car, that was the equivalent of wealth and success and affluence, especially if you had a high credit score. And that's something I had to quickly learn is a lie. I didn't realize that credit card money was not my money until I began on this financial journey, right? So this is me, 2 degrees, a law degree and a bachelor's, not even realizing, oh, that's actually a loan to have a credit card and a loan with interest, right? And so these are some things that I had to unlearn as I was entering this journey of wanting to get new information so I can do better with what I was learning.
Absolutely. I love this. I want to stick right here for one more minute.
Sure.
What's an uncomfortable truth that you learned about yourself? As far as Louis Vuitton and Coach, was it vanity? Was it like, were you like, I have to be, I'll give you mine. Right. I grew up in the Virgin Islands. And
Yeah.
I saw women literally they could not go to an event and be caught wearing the same thing that another girl is wearing, or vice
I
versa.
still do that.
Okay, that's a real life truth that
Yeah.
I see in some of my Caribbean sisters. What was a most uncomfortable truth you learned about yourself when it comes
Mhm.
to money and things?
I think I still have that certain insecurity, right? Which is that I innately almost attribute value to things if the things are more expensive. And that's not true. Like my brain knows it, right? But my instinct, when I go to the store, if I see a pocketbook that's plain, but it has a brand name on it, and I see another pocketbook that looks exactly the same, but it does not have a brand name on it, my innate instinct is to attribute value to the thing that costs more, or better yet, to the thing that I can't afford, right? My
Mm.
sister in Jamaican culture, we say your chest high. You know what I mean? It's where you want something that you cannot afford, but that's what you want. So you're gonna do what you gotta do to get it. And so I had to really and constantly too. It's not as loud as it used to be. It doesn't control me as much as it used to. But I'm not naive enough to think that it's gone all the way, right? I know that that's still an insecurity I have to work through. This idea that spending more means value. That's not true. And that's not true with vacations. That's not true with getting your hair done. That's not true with anything, right? Just because you spend a bunch of money doesn't mean you've gotten value.
Ooh, this is the sauce. This is what I'm talking about, y'all. I told y'all. Miss Hewitt spilling the tea on Gentleman Style Podcast Show. One more round of applause for this incredible speaker. This is good.
Awesome.
I'm gonna get personal. What's the most financially irresponsible thing you've ever done with money that has shaped your philosophy today? I'll tell you mine. I'll meet you. I'll meet you right
You
now.
start.
I'll take one of the most financially irresponsible thing I've ever done was I had no clue about credit card and debt, and I got the letter in the mail. I was in the military. I got the letter from Navy Federal, and they said, "Ooh, $5,000 pre-approved.
That's what
Come
they
down
do.
to your local Navy Federal. We got you. You'll get this cash." So I run down to the bank. Have no idea what this 5,000 is about, but that's a lot of money for an
For a kid.
18-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the guy literally at the front desk, I said, What's this? What's this? I got this in the mail today. What's this about?" And he's like, "Oh, it's like free money. Free money. It's free money. You pay us back later, but we give it to you right now." $5,000 later, I said, "Oh, I could spend a couple hundred, go home to the Caribbean, see my family, bounce back, and pay it off by next paycheck." I run up the $5,000 and I never bought the flight.
Goodness.
And I've been paying for that. I paid for that for about 10 years. 10 years, never caught up, never paid it off, ran
Wow.
it up. Same question for you, Miss Hewitt.
So I'll tell you, this is something I share regularly, right? A
Mhm.
part of that $58,350, I have no doubts it included food that I purchased in college,
Mhm.
dresses and heels and outfits for Thirsty Thursday and Freaky Friday that I purchased in college, right?
Real.
It's before I knew the Lord, to my audience. It's before I knew the Lord, right? So
It's real.
I was paying interest and I was paying for years for something so fleeting, so temporary. And side note, when you talk about the dumbest thing I've ever done, it was paying for food to fill up my college refrigerator when I already was paying tuition to eat in the lunchroom just so I could be the room that had the stuff in it, right? So
Ooh.
irresponsible. But here's the thing, it's interesting. In your story, you're talking about age 18 or so. With me, it's also those formative years, those years when you first when you're first allowed to have a credit card, right? If nobody equips these kids, these teenagers and these young adults how to steward finances, how to steward credit cards, loans, etc., they will run amok that they'll have to pay for, just like you said, 5 years, 10 years. It'll impact their ability to buy a house sometimes, to buy a car, or to finance or lease a car. It's horrible because the only real solution starts with, well, let me not say the only, but a primary solution, I truly believe, is wisdom, getting wisdom that can't be taken, unlearning and relearning. So who's exposing us to the information, right? So that's something that I make my life work, to expose people to the information, because we shouldn't have to live through these hard and stupid decisions.
Agreed. So agree. You're 100% accurate. And you're right. I remember the conversation with my dad as I'm exiting to join the military. On my way out, he's like, make sure you save some money. And that's it. That was my
That was
financial
it.
indoctrination to adulthood. Make sure you save a little bit of money. That was it. No, what is a car note? What is a gas? What is paying your rent before your bills? None of that. That was
Mhm.
my financial. And I think a lot of us get deprived of that conversation because our parents, at least in my household, and I think a fair degree of people experience the same. Let a child be a child. I don't want to expose you. I don't want to have the tough conversation around money. I don't want to explain to you that why mom and dad are in debt and why these bills are piling up over here. What is a gas bill? What is a light bill? I think there's a part
Oh,
of
yeah.
embarrassment there, as well as our parents, I think, try their best. But unfortunately, it passes along generationally. I know what I know, and what I don't know, I don't want to talk about.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
don't want to give the impression to my child that I have no idea what I'm doing with money. You often
Mhm.
see, you're in New York.
Yeah.
Um, you often see the shoe head, right? The sneakerhead. They got
Mhm.
all the J's, they got
Yep.
all the Tims. If you look a couple of lineages down, mom or dad or both are a sneakerhead as well. These are things passed down. They
Yeah.
didn't just happen. And
Mhm.
so I love how you share that experience and your honesty with it. I appreciate you for that because I think we need to hear it.
Yeah, for sure.
As because I think there are people blaming themselves for what they don't know. And your mom and dad probably blame themselves even more. That
Mhm.
my parents, hey, this is the best I could do. And this is all I knew. And I gave you the best of what I had. So
Mhm.
shout out to mom and dad.
Shout out.
This is probably self interest here, but I'm talking to a black woman for our audio listeners. Is debt actually the modern day slavery, or is that an exaggeration because people don't actually want to hold themselves accountable? What do you see when you're dealing with your clients? Is it a lack of accountability, or is this system, the payday lender, the debt, the government, student loans, is it modern day slavery to keep us poor? What do you think?
So here's what I say, right? As someone who is a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ by lifestyle, I believe in the book called the Bible, the library called the Bible. One of the things that that book says is the borrower is slave to the lender. I've lived it, so I know that to be true. When you borrow money from these companies, when you borrow money and you build up debt, you're enslaved. So yeah, it is modern day slavery in that you always have to give an answer to the owner, right? You always have to give an answer. And so, wouldn't you want to live free? I think the beautiful thing and the difference between actual slavery and us calling debt the modern day slavery is, guess what? I'm a first generation Jamaican American, right? And I was able to get out. And so it's not, the kind of slavery that has to keep you shackled up. You can break free on your own accord, just with your own effort, with your own sacrifice, with your own seeking new information, with your own exposure to new information, with your own hanging out with people who know something you don't know. So shame aside, right? Yeah, you can only do what you know. So do know something better, right? Go out of your way to get the information. So yes, to answer your question more succinctly, I do believe that debt is a kind of slavery, but I also believe that there's too many avenues for us to break free. We cannot stand on that excuse. And lastly, with my clients, a lot of times they really just tend to not know better. And once they know better, they do better. They try their best to do better. And so that's the goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now I'm going to segue. I'm going to segue because I hear the young girl, the young boy, the young investor screaming out in the audience. Well, I use debt to finance my real estate. You even mentioned earlier, Miss Hewitt, that you bought a home. Did you buy your home cash or did you borrow money? Well, am I a slave to my home? Because I love my home. I love my beautiful house and I leverage debt to acquire things in a strategic way. What would you say to that individual shouting at and punching their TV right
All right, don't punch me now, okay?
now?
I'm just a messenger. I'm just an educator, okay? You do what you want.
Right.
Personal finance is personal. So let me just tell you this, and this is something I teach students also, right? I truly believe that when you know how to steward or manage your own money well, then you can do what you want. You can leverage debt. You can build and grow your business using debt, right? You can do that. But first, Learn the basics. But first, how about we're not playing the point system? We're not playing the borrowing system, right? How about we're not playing that game? We're going to grow our own first, and then we can dabble into those other opportunities. Now, I will say this, when it comes to home ownership, it is an asset or a liability depending on who you ask. I'll say this, my home right now is an asset in that it's growing equity. My house has made like $35,000 a year. Maybe that's not a lot for some people, but for somebody like me, that's a whole lot of money to make in a 3-year period of time. Equity, right? Not liquid, right? But equity, it's mine. When I sell this house, as long as the market remains what it is, that's my money, right? Now, on the flip side, it's a liability. Why? Because I'm not the owner yet. I'm paying my mortgage in order to own it someday. So I'm not naive to that. And I want to make sure I say that to the person listening who thinks owning a house is the goal. No, owning a house is not. Well, let me say this. Paying a mortgage is the goal. No, having a house and paying a mortgage is not the goal. Owning a house and owning properties, there's a goal, and so you just need to know the information so you know how to play the game and navigate it strategically. I would never look at something where I owe someone as an asset, really, right? And so as much as I can say it's an asset, I know this house is not mine, but I know the money that I'll walk away with will be mine. You got to know.
Know what you know. Leverage. Financial literacy. There's a buzzword. Financial literacy. We have to educate ourselves.
Yeah.
In addition to the Bible, I love the Richest Man in Babylon series. I really appreciate that book because it gives a deeper insight while still maintaining the core principle and doctrines of Christian and biblical values. So I really appreciate that book when it comes to money and leveraging debt in a wise, well thought out way. And it breaks it down. It's not hieroglyphics. It's not big fancy words. It's not. Right. It's not law. You, as a lawyer, we have a lawyer on online right now. It's not that. Right? Because then I need to hire Miss Hewitt to not only decipher the scripture, but also to represent me with my debtors financially. So powerful. Do you think, or have you ever come across someone who's afraid of wealth because of the same scripture or the same Christian belief of money is evil? Right? Money is evil. I can't be wealthy. No, I'm a good person. Right? Do you think some people or most people are actually afraid of wealth and attaining a certain level of affluence or influence?
I don't know if I could say most people, right? But I do believe there's a lot of believers out there who have a negative view of the accumulation of money to the point where they don't even want to talk about it, right? And so there's a barrier that I come up against, right? Which is money is still taboo for a large part of our population. And how can it be, right? Now we're in a generation where we have podcasts regularly talking about finance. You got television shows, you got books, you got commercials, right? There's all of this talk around money, and the wealthy are talking about money. The people on the come up gearing towards wealth, we're talking about money, right? But if you don't even want to talk about it, how on earth can you figure out what you don't know about it? And so a big part of the problem is because of the scripture, money is the root of all evil, which is an incorrect reading of the scripture, right? It says the love of money is the root of all evil. But when you have this misconception that money is evil, you miss it. And you miss it in the name of Jesus. And that breaks my heart, because as someone who has taught the word of God, I also know the story of the talents. I know the story of Elisha and the woman with the widow and oil, and how her husband died and left her in debt. And it ran the risk of having her sons become enslaved, but for her becoming a businesswoman and selling it. Go to 2 Kings, check that story out. I know the Proverbs and the Psalms that say all hard work brings profit. There's so many other scriptures that talk about money, right? And the good use of money, right? And Solomon was rich and he built the temple for the Lord with the money, the wealth that he accumulated, right? And so there's just so many other things I can say. And so for whoever has that misconception, I strongly encourage you, if the Bible is where you're getting the information from, that you are to hate money, I encourage you to do a Bible study on what God has to say about money and look at it in its totality, because God has a lot to say about the money he gives us to manage.
Absolutely. Well, for those in our audio listeners, what she's saying is read the whole Bible.
Come on.
Don't. And I hate to see that. And I always catch people on Facebook, right? They're like, well, the Bible says this. Okay, first off, are you reading from Old Testament or New
Hey,
Testament?
come on.
And they're like, well, what's the difference? The difference is if you're reading from Old Testament and you're trying to use that to justify polyamory, you should also be sacrificing baby goats at the altar.
It's a
So
whole
you
lot
have
of
to
things.
you have to understand what you're reading and the full context of it. So
Mhm.
love it, love it. Read your whole Bible.
Read the whole Bible, people.
I wanna for the parent that's watching and tuning in. I think I'm gonna ask you the question and then I'll share my thoughts on it. Do you
Okay.
believe parents should be honest with their kids about being financially broke, being if you're wealthy, let them know that you're wealthy, or does that create hurt, trauma, or a scarcity mindset that what we commonly see today? And I'll share, I think parents need to be upfront. I
Yeah.
think parents need to say the thing, right? If we're broke, explain to me what broke is and why we're broke so your
Mhm.
kids can learn from that experience. Kids are sponges
Mhm.
and they absorb whatever the atmosphere and the environment they're around. But not talking about it, I think does more harm than being upfront and talking about it. Your thoughts?
So you might get me in trouble because I want to share a story with you about a client I had first, but I want to start with this. All right. I believe that if you're wealthy, you should not tell your kids the length of wealthy you are.
Mm,
And I'll give it some context. I believe if you're in poverty or if you're poor, if you consider yourself broke, you should tell your kids and you should tell them how you got there and how you're going to do better. Let me just start with this. I had a client, this was a private client, so not in my classroom, but I went to her home to do a money talks. My courses are called Money Talks Academy, Money Talks. And so I did a money talks for her child and a cousin, right? They were teenagers at the time. And the woman who had hired me to come into her home and teach them investing is really what she wanted me to teach them because they go to a very wealthy school and their friends had been investing, but they didn't know how and she didn't know how to teach them. And I'm going to tell you, this woman was an immigrant, an Indian immigrant, her and her husband both. They came from nothing. They both studied really hard, became doctors, and they didn't know how to teach their kids how to manage money, even though they're very wealthy. They're rich. I would say they're rich. Their house looks like they're rich. That's me. Remember, I told you I attribute value with, so I'm working on it, right? So, anyways, what I found in listening to her talk was, oh my goodness, she actually made it out. She's a double six-figure, digit earner, her and her husband both, but they don't know what to teach their kids about money. And so she came across me and she said, hey, would you come to my house and teach my kids how to invest? And I said, okay, before we do that, do they know how to save and budget? And she said, oh, you could teach them that too. Kind of this passive kind of thing, right? So I eventually tailored a class so that because I know they really wanted to get to the investment piece. But the problem is how you want to learn how to invest and you don't know how to manage money at the most basic level, how to keep it, how to save it, how to prioritize your wants versus your needs. And so I wanted to share that story with you guys, right? Because first off, that was a parent who wanted to do better with the next generation by teaching them about what they were interested in and not all of it, right? So what I'll say first is, yes, parents, equip your children with all of it. And if you don't know, do what she did. Hire professionals, right? Or be intentional about what they watch on YouTube, who they're following on social media. You can begin to curate financial literacy education information very easily if you want to begin to spoon feed that to your children, right? Or your teenagers. All right. What else? Let me just see. Okay, I'll have to read the question. Thank you for that, by the way. That's amazing. So what I'll say is going back to what I started with, I have some wealthy friends, and I believe that when you're wealthy, when you have multiple 7 figures, 8 figures, I don't necessarily think you should tell your children while they're children, because children they don't always know what to do with that information. And so it may cause pride issues. It may cause bullying potentially if they go to a school that's a regular everyday public school where kids are in poverty and meanwhile they're 7, 8 figures in a family. But also don't tell them if they don't have the maturity level to understand, right? So your kids, you know which kid can handle it and which kid can't. And so as not to cause kind of this, oh, they found out from their brother that they were rich, I would just recommend you explain to them that you guys do well, but I wouldn't necessarily tell them the numbers and the nitty gritty. But I would also explain to them why you work as hard as you do, what strategies you put in place to keep and grow money. So rather than saying we're rich and this is the numbers, tell them the process, help them to walk alongside you with the process so that as they grow older, they're not learning by osmosis, right? They can learn it by doing with you. Something I told that doctor, she asked me, how can she keep this going? How can she foster it? Because of course, I only taught her children for her child and the cousin for a limited period of time. So her question to me was, hey, how can I keep this going? My answer to her was, when you go over your bills every single month, have her sit in. And she said, have her sit in. And I said, well, how is she going to know what the responsibilities are and what costs money around this house if you never let her into the conversation, right? So not to say she's going to know what your salary is, because again, that would be telling them the actual numbers, but tell them the process. This is what we pay every month. When you leave that light on before you leave, don't just yell about it, having it be turned off. Tell them the cost. Begin to help children to quantify and put a number association to the things that they use every day so that they can begin to realize, if I go pursue this career, I'm not going to be able to pay for this lifestyle that I got so used to when I was growing up, right? So it just prepares them better.
Absolutely. I agree on both points. One story that stuck out for me is what you said. The other, I read a lot of biographies.
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot of titans of industry, J.P. Morgan Chase, John D. Rockefeller, all the titans of industry who made
Mm-hmm.
America railroads, banking, finance, all those things. And I'll never forget the story of J.P. Morgan when he was a much older man and he's trying to pass down his wealth. And he initially only gave his eldest son a fraction of the wealth. And he
Mm-hmm.
gave him a fraction, like 25% of what he actually net worth was. And it almost killed him, his son, because it was so much responsibility, so much
Wait.
inheritance, so much weight
Yeah.
that the son couldn't manage it all. He wasn't prepared. He became sick and ill. And then JP Morgan had to take back the 25% ownership of the companies. And then he had to send his son overseas to recover.
Wow.
And go to the best doctors and recover because it almost killed him.
Mm.
And that was only a fraction of the wealth. And so along with what you're saying is we need, before we, I think it's okay. I think it's okay after the education.
Yes.
Because along with what you said is that they're not prepared. They don't know. And I remember sitting in finance class and a single mother, well, why isn't the school teaching my child math? And why aren't they teaching them? Because they mimic you. They see you, what you do with money, and they mimic those behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
School is just going to provide the mathematics, the core skills,
Right.
but the foundation and the utilization comes from home.
Yeah.
And so I think it's okay once you equip your children with the tools. Like you said, take them into the meeting with you. Have the conversation about the bills and the responsibilities and where all of this comes from.
Correct.
It's not magic. It's not a tree. Mom and dad literally have to bust their butt. And like you said, equating, if I give you an allowance and I tell you, and you're that child, I want this toy. Okay, that toy is $12.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you an allowance of $5. But you can have whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have all the money. Exactly. Now I'm forcing the conversation and I'm stimulating the kind of environment that I want to see so that when and if I prepare you, because some children just don't get it, you're ready to handle that load.
That's
so
right.
Love it. This is good. This is the sauce. I want to speak about
sauce, y'all. Come on, sauce.
Jerk. I want to talk about self-care. That's a buzzword, another buzzword within the community. Is self-care, in your opinion, is self-care a movement financially destroying people who mask their financial irresponsibility with lavish vacations, Coach bags, Chanel, Louis Vuitton? What's the other one? The perfume YSL. Do you? Huh?
So I got me my YSL in the room. No good.
It does. I give it that. But I think I see people utilizing, I'm self-caring. And they go to Mexico, buy the resort, stay in the beautiful resorts, and take all the Instagram photos. And then they come back and there's termites in the house and there's rat infestation. I think we sometimes mask self-care
Yeah.
with our financial to cover up our financial irresponsibility. Your thoughts?
So, I think I got the right podcast for this, right? The Bible tells us that all the laws of the land hang on these two commandments: to love the Lord thy God with all of thy heart, soul, mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And so when I think about self-care, the first thing I think about is this commandment: to love my neighbor as myself means I also have to love me. Well, what is love? Love is patient. Love is kind. You know what I mean? There's certain definitions around what that love looks like of self. And also God is love, right? And so if he's not at the center, if that is not at the center of the word love for us, then we're getting it wrong. You cannot attribute love of self to buying a vacation. That's just silly. I mean, let's really think about that for a minute. You go and you have this experience, and yeah, it's fun. And yes, it's going to feel good, but it's fleeting. On Monday morning, you're going to go back to work. You know what I mean? And go back to your life. And so you have to remember that self-care is really a whole lot about how you're managing, stewarding what happens in here. What happens in here? Do you read books to learn about yourself? Are you reckoning with your traumas of old or your voids of old, right? Are you facing your stuff? That's self-care. Oh my goodness. Taking care of myself looks like I go to a gathering place, a community of believers, right? But really, are you in a positive community that's affirming the good parts of you and that's calling out in love the parts of you that need some work? Because that's self-care. Self-care is going to a job that you actually enjoy. And if you don't, it's strategizing a way out of the job you're in that you don't like, right? Because you shouldn't rot forever in a place where you don't really want to be. That's self-care. Self-care is saving a little bit of money. Every time you get some money, you save some money. That's self-care, baby. That is self-care, right? There's so many other things I can name off that are more valuable, right? Peace. Oh my goodness. I went hiking this morning with a group of women and it was beautiful. And we took 2-minute period to just listen. So we weren't talking. It was banned for 2 minutes. We just stood in nature in God's land and we listened. And you want to know what we heard? Birds chirping, a water flowing, footsteps of other people who are out there in nature, animals doing what animals do. It was beautiful. And that 2 minutes, as short as it was, that was some good self-care, right? And so it doesn't always have to cost you financially, self-care. But we got to define it correctly or else we're going to miss the mark every time.
Absolutely. Staying in the same lane and the same breath. What keeps you motivated when you feel stagnant or hit a roadblock in budgeting? Budgeting isn't sexy. It's not cool by some accounts, right? And sometimes you can be like, man, I'm saving. I got $10,000 in the bank and I have this goal. I still have $5,000 in debt. And it's not a pretty journey, but it's totally worth it at the end. What things do you do or what tips do you give your clients to strategize that keeps them motivated, keeps you motivated when they feel stagnant or hit that roadblock in the budgeting journey?
Okay. So first, from the practical perspective, if I'm paying off debt, the debt snowball method is the way that I would go if I'm someone who's prone to, feeling this way, right? Running out of steam, because it keeps you motivated to have that positive reinforcement of progress. Right. But if progress feels stagnant, even if you're moving the needle, if you're just feeling tired and exhausted, you got to have positive reinforcements, right? This is self-care too, to create positive reinforcements for yourself. What does that look like? Maybe incorporating a friend or two into your journey so that when you're feeling low, you can call them and tell them about your discouragements, knowing that they're going to be the kind of people who pray for you, number one, and number two, who are going to pick you up and encourage you. Hey, sis, but you got this, though. You look at how you started. Look how far you've come. Hey, bro, keep it going, man. You've done this before. You've had to do hard things before. They'll remind you of who you are and your identity in this journey forward, right? The other thing that I would recommend is short-term, or let me say low-cost positive reinforcements. Okay, for me personally, I love me a good chocolate chip cookie. And I don't know what y'all into. I don't know what you like. But I love me a good chocolate chip cookie. So when I'm feeling low, guess what? I'm gonna go find my way to Insomnia or Crumble Cookie and spend me about $7-10 on some cookies. Yep, I said it, $7 to $10 on some cookies. Because I need to remember this is worth something to keep this going, right? Because if all I'm doing is splurging on $10 here or a quick outing that maybe costs $50 to $100, and Dave Ramsey wouldn't necessarily agree with me, right? But I follow my way, not his way per se. I do believe that sometimes if you're hitting that block, you have to remember that being wise with money doesn't mean withholding everything from yourself. It's being intentional with your spending. And so you can begin to budget some fun activity or some fun purchase that reminds you you're doing good and you deserve, right? But hear me. You deserve a positive reinforcement so that you can keep going on the journey. Not I deserve, so I'm just going to throw all of my plans out the window and use all of my money and run amok. Not that kind of I deserve. But again, we're human. We need positive reinforcements to learn. This is always how we've learned, and it will always be how we learn. So that's how I stay motivated myself.
Absolutely. And don't go splurging. Don't go splurging on a Chris Brown concert, Usher concert. That's that's a that's a waste. That's a waste.
It's a waste.
I want to touch on relationships. We talk on relationships. I want to play a quick game, red flag, green flag with you.
Okay.
You and your partner, you're saving to make a purchase on an investment property. The investment property costs $150,000. There you have $100,000. Both of y'all worked hard, grinding. Y'all saved $100,000. Your partner says, Keisha Cole is performing a concert. The tickets are $5,000, front row, VIP seats, $5,000. I need $5,000 to pull out the account so I could go see her and be at this concert. She's nearby. I need a break. I've been doing the debt snowball. Red flag, green flag to you.
Am I allowed to add any context? I just got to answer with the facts I've been given. This is the attorney in me. I'm sorry. You get clarity, Judge.
Get some clarity. Sure. We can get some clarity. Yes.
Okay. One of my first questions is, do we both love Keisha Cole?
No, you do not like Keisha Cole.
Okay. He loves Keisha Cole. My second question is, how many hours do they have to work in order to make $5,000?
Great question. That's 3 months. 3 months paycheck.
So we talk about an exchange of 3 months in order to contribute to our goals, as opposed to 3 months spent in one night on Keisha Cole.
Yes.
My heart. I'm gonna go ahead and call that a red flag.
Red flag. Red.
Because of those answers. Because of those answers.
Red flag, y'all. Fellas, red flag. You're breaking the covenant. You're breaking the pact. We are goal setting.
3 months? What?
3 months.
What are we doing? We can't wait. We can't wait until we get to the goal to go to Keisha after to celebrate.
She might not come back. She might not be in the area.
By the time we get the property, we can fly to wherever she's at.
Facts. Hashtag facts. Hashtag facts. Good one. Another round of applause for Miss Hewitt. Such a sport.
Yeah, I like this stuff.
Red flag, green flag. That was good. Okay. Red flag, green flag. Your partner comes into some financial inheritance. Unfortunately, mom, let's say mom, why am I killing mom? Dad passed. Let's kill off dad. Dad passed away, comes into an inheritance. Dad left $100,000 life insurance to your partner, your husband. Is it a red flag? Now you have $100,000 of debt. Is it a red flag that your partner doesn't want to use the $100,000 to pay off the debt? Is it a green flag that they're saving money and they're saving the money? They don't want to, quote unquote, waste it on the debt because you're not behind on the payments. You've been responsible and paying it on time, paying the minimums or a little bit more. I'm trying to give some context so I can satisfy the lawyer in the room.
Yeah, you're helping me.
But he wants to set it aside. He doesn't want to pay off the $100K debt right away with the life insurance from mom and from dad. Red flag, green flag.
I got a context question.
Okay.
I keep on having you bend your facts for me.
You're good. You're
My
good.
question to you is his logic, hey, it would cause better habits in us to work hard to pay off that 100K than the instantaneous, I got 100K, now I want to pay off debt. Is that the thinking?
Nope. The thinking is we're not behind. I want to save this money for me. His thinking is I just want to have this nest egg, this safety net for whatever crisis or emergency or whatever. We haven't figured out the estate planning for dad. There could be some financial obligations that dad had that we may have to cover in the future that we didn't plan for or was unexpected. He just wants to see this money in the account stashed away somewhere. By the way, it's not something you have access to.
Oh, you didn't tell me that part.
I'm adding context. Because I've had these guests on the show. I've literally, my God.
I'm going to tell you this, right? Because there's a couple of things happening inside of me. And of course, I've had conversations with married people, right?
Absolutely.
Here's what I'll say. In this particular couple situation, before I give you my answer, I'll give you my context, right? We're talking about a man who is not wanting to make an irresponsible decision with this 6 figures. He's just wanting to make a different decision than the wife. That's a big difference, right? He's saying, I want to save this. I want to strategize. We still got time. Why rush, right? He's saying we're still working on the debt. It's not like we're ignoring the debt. So my answer is green flag, because at the end of the day, the two are one, even if I don't have access to it, which I don't like that part. Ladies, please hear me. I don't like that part. He threw me on a doozy with that one. However, he's trying to make a responsible financial decision for his family. And so even though I can't see it, it's still my money. I'm going to benefit because he's my husband. Absolutely. So let him do what he do, ladies. Some stuff you got to pick and choose your battles, you know?
I wish my co-host was here. My God. She'd have a heart attack. She would have a stroke.
Because of that part about him hiding the money. That's
absolutely.
I know, that's toxic. They need therapy for that part.
Why did that section bother you?
Well, because I'm not married yet, right? But I believe that there should be no financial infidelity, right? And that's what I call that, hiding money. That's cheating. Because if the two are one flesh, then what's yours is mine. So if you hiding something from me, then that's dishonesty, that's deception, right? Even if I know it exists, because in that scenario, I know that 100K is coming into my family, but I can't touch it. Well, why not, right? That's its own conversation or therapy session, like I said. So that doesn't sit well with me, because at the end of the day, if we are making a decision together concerning debt, concerning our household, then why are you keeping a $100,000 secret?
I really wish my co-host was here. I really wish my co-host was here.
Disagree.
She would disagree. I may clip this in. Clip that. I may clip this in because she is of the firm belief you need to always have money stashed away just in case. Money that you don't have, money you can't see. It's on her side. You can't touch it. You can't access it. You know about it because
that's my question.
You know the amount. You're very cognizant. I had a tenant like that. I had a tenant. He was the only child. He was a male. He was married. He was a tenant staying in my property. He came into 50K. Not life-changing, but for him it was, right? The wife was like, oh, we're going to pay off this. We're going to pay off the car. We're going to be able to save. The wife was also pregnant. It was kind of unfortunate. The mom passed and then their daughter was born the same day.
Ooh.
So it was almost like a transition. It was a real, and he came into the 50K. As the lawyer side, legally, the money is his because it was. I thought the law protects life insurance, right? There is no claim on the wife's behalf to the life insurance money because she willed it to him.
Because he's the beneficiary listed. That could be true. I'm not 100% sure, but that could be true.
So it was interesting to me, and he blew it. He blew the entire money. He blew the entire money. She lost it. He lost it. She was upset, visibly upset. But I one of the things that I pointed out to her, because I had to evict her, I had to evict them. One of the things that came up was she's like, I'm entitled to that money. And I said to her one thing. I said, do you understand he lost his mother to get this money?
Yeah, it's his money.
Do you and when I said that, it hurt a little bit. She
Mhm.
just had her baby. And
Yeah.
so imagine your daughter is grieving you and you left her something to remember you by,
Mhm.
and you're trying to get access in what he's perceiving, you clawing at this money.
Mm,
That
mhm.
is the last remnant of his mother. Irregardless of who gets it, you're his wife, all
Right.
those things, that doesn't feel good.
Mhm.
And so that was the heartstring of that conversation.
Yeah,
So
that's
um
tough one.
that
I'll
was
say this real quick.
there.
Again, in matters of relationship, right? As long as the parties are communicating with each other and agreement and in agreement, right? So, like, let's say your wife, if she believes, listen, let me have my surprise money or my money over here, but it's not hidden in that scenario. You know about it, you know the numbers, and everybody's in agreement that that's okay, then praise the Lord, that's okay. You know what I mean? But if it's a secret, if it's a this is mine, you don't get to know what I'm doing about it, da da da. I don't like that because you're my husband, you know?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let me be clear. I am playing devil's advocate here. I
I have this
agree.
thing. Marcus, I tell my coworkers when they say that all the time, why on earth would you want to be the advocate of the devil? That's the first problem.
That's fair. It
That's
makes
the devil.
that's fair. That's a great question. That's a great statement. It makes the conversation, because if me and you agree, the show wouldn't be any fun.
No,
Even
no,
though
I
I
love
do,
it. I love it.
even though I agree
It
with
has me thinking too, because I'm like, oh, if I ever was faced with this scenario, I would be really bothered that my husband would want to use his life insurance in a way that I didn't approve of or agree to. I would be bothered by that. Can't lie,
you.
you know?
Absolutely.
So it's an
Because
interesting conversation.
because I agree with you, because it affects both parties.
Yeah.
I
So
think
what's
people
the
I think people mess this up in finances.
Mhm.
When you are two people coming together, if you agree with the notion that what I do affects you, whether indirectly or directly,
Yeah.
when you are marrying someone, you are attached to them. So Kanye West, Kim Kardashian. Look what
Mhm.
happened when Kanye lost his mind. It affected his
Yeah,
wife. And
absolutely.
now she's going to public events, speaking engagements, going on The View, going on CNN, having to explain the things her husband is doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And that indirectly affects her. She can't control him. That's her
Mhm.
husband, but she has to now defend him, even though
Yep,
she's not the one that did it. And
that's
so,
right.
if you are of that mindset, when you go into a marriage, then the same thing, you have to agree that the same thing with money. What your partner does can positively affect your marriage or
Mhm.
negatively affect your marriage. In this case, the 50K destroyed their marriage,
Yeah, sure. That's
right?
tough.
But on the
Mhm.
flip side, if my wife has a venture that she wants to participate in, and we came in to some money, or I came into some money, wouldn't it be wise to invest in my wife's endeavor, because that ultimately comes back to the household?
That's right.
And so I agree with you with, it doesn't benefit anybody if you're hiding money,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you could have advanced the marriage. You could the time y'all spent arguing, y'all could afford that vacation that she's
Mm,
complaining about, the couples counseling that y'all needed,
mhm.
the cruise that y'all been meaning to go on, or the wedding that you've always dreamed of.
Right, right,
You could
right.
have invested. I always hate the glow up after a marriage. Oh,
Mm,
look at me. I look at me. I lost all this weight. Could you have lost all that weight in the marriage?
mhm,
I'm curious. I'm curious. Now you're a relationship financial guru, right? After the marriage has failed.
mhm.
Mm, Let me stop. Let me stop. I could go on a
Come on, because
soapbox.
you're preaching about the value of marriage. That's a whole nother podcast right there,
We,
right?
we've lost it. We've
Mhm.
lost it, and especially those are the things. Money causes divorce,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think we have some very selfish habits. You can't be selfish in a union. That
Mm,
that doesn't work. So
mhm,
hiding money, which is what you said, doesn't work, because if you hide money, what else are you going to hide from me? What else
mhm.
have
That's
you been
right.
hiding
It's
from
a
me?
listen, it's a trip, a drip, a ripple effect. That's the term I'm looking for. It's a ripple effect.
You are secretly, again, it's we are creatures of habit. So what you do often becomes habit. Well, I got away with hiding this from
Come on.
my wife and she didn't know about it. Well, what else can I get away with?
Mhm.
It's a muscle that you don't want to start flexing.
Man, that's so good. Ooh. I'm up for that. Enough that you don't want to start
I firmly believe that, and I know people don't like that. Oh, what's mine is mine. You don't need to be married.
Yeah, then you're not ready for that.
You're not ready for marriage. How many times? Here's the pivot. How many times has financial trauma come back to haunt your clients as an adult? What is that often occurring? If so, why or why not? Financial trauma plaguing someone in their younger years, coming back to haunt them as an adult.
So a lot of times people that don't come from a lot of money have the negative or limited mindset that they could never achieve, right? This certain amount of money. And it's not that they believe it, right? But it is something that creeps into their minds. A lot of times when I'm talking to people and I'm learning, oh, they're just not used to ever having this much money. So when they have it, their assumption is, well, you got to spend it. Some people actually have that. It's like a quiet bondage, I call it, right? Where you think you have to spend the money that you get, which is crazy, right? But that's how it is, because in their childhood, money was hard to come by. So it's like, oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. And now when you come across some extra, your first instinct is not to save it or invest it. It's to spend it on something, right? And so I've seen that. I've seen people, one in particular, this is a Christian. She was of the opinion that investing was a bad thing, that it was too risky, that it was irresponsible, actually, specifically investing in the stock market. And I really had to talk to her about the story of the talents and how, no, there's this story where God, it's a story in the scripture. It's kind of like a parable. But the point is, God entrusted 3 people with something of value, and he actually expected it to double, right? Or triple, or like to be fruitful. He expected it to multiply. God is God over and above all of this, including investing, right? And so one thing that I saw, like I said, again, because of her childhood and the perception around risk and investing and money management, it had to do with, well, don't take risks with money, right? Do the practical things that add up, that make sense. And, investing is risky, but people's perception can be so twisted up and wrong about money when they come from a place that modeled one way and not all of the various ways. And so this is why, again, it's important, get access to new information so that you can do better once you have that new information. If you only go by what you know today, you're only going to get what you can get today.
Facts.
And we all want more, right? Hopefully. I mean, God has given us dominion, authority. He says he has exceedingly and abundantly above for us, right? We ought to want more.
Absolutely. But we're scared. We're afraid of more.
Yeah, sometimes it's fear.
Absolutely. Which is why I asked that question earlier about how many clients do you see be fearful of weather? Oh, I just want this right here. This is my little lane, and I'm gonna swim in it. And it's like, no, you are called to abundance. You are called to more.
Marcus, can I tell you something real quick?
Yes.
I have, when I first started this journey, right, and I paid off my debt, all I was doing was saving money, right? Because I had never been without debt. So in that season of my life, I actually cut up my credit cards, eliminated them, paid them off. I did the Dave Ramsey thing. I did it, right? I lived for 1 year only, but I did live without a credit card, and I lived off of my own bank account. And during that time, Robinhood was really popular. I was just learning how to invest. This is pandemic time now, right? So I was learning. So at that time, I had a decent 5 figures, a decent amount, just in Robinhood, just playing around, right? Figuring life out, right? And at the time, one thing that I learned about myself was I was afraid of not saving money. Like I was afraid to do anything else with it. And even though I was saving it on Robinhood, which I know some of you will hear that and be like, girl, you just said you was on Robinhood. It was new to me. So I didn't even understand the level of risk I had been taking by having my savings in there. And I did very well, by the way. The pandemic was a great time. Pandemic was a great time to be investing in the stock market, right? But I didn't even realize that then. I was learning. But I learned about myself back then because I was never used to having so much money in savings. I was afraid to do anything else with money besides accumulate it. So I went from not having any, accumulating debt, paying off my debt, to saving. And then when it came time to consider buying a house, I was like, but then I'm not going to have my money. I'm going to have to start over with saving my money. You want me to give you 20%? What? I had to, and I still this still kind of rises up in me when it comes time to go on vacation and do fun things. It's hard for me to spend large amounts of money, even if I have it sitting right there. And I think it's because I don't come from a place of having the example, right, of what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. So I'm still learning too, like, okay, you know, you can go, like, go on a vacation, go. It's okay. It's not going to kill you. Like, I went to Ireland last August for my birthday, my 35th birthday last year. And it was a hard decision to make. And a part of it was, I just was like, but man, if I spend it on that, then I can't spend it on that. Like, I do that to myself. I talk myself out of spending, right? And maybe that's a good habit to have. But I also think once you saved enough money and you're strategic and you're intentional and you're firing at all cylinders, you are investing, you are saving, you do have the stability where you can cover your expenses. Girl, go on a vacation. Like, it's okay. So it's like these little things that came from my roots, I believe. I really do believe I'm unlearning them because I'm just not used to certain things, right?
That's honest.
Certain things.
That's truly honest. Do you ever advise clients that, hey, you're saving at a good rate, the 401k is maxed out, your financial strength, and you're whole, you're doing very well. There's some extra there. Have you ever encouraged a client, go ahead, be flashy, get the Bugatti, get the Lamborghini, get the Tesla? Do you ever see to your client, talking to your clients, where having a quote unquote financial toy be a good thing?
So let me just say this. I am not one. Oh, let me start here. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a financial educator. However,
Yeah.
I do budgeting sessions with my client, right? Money Talks one-on-one. And when I do, I go through their numbers, their specific circumstances. And when they have extra money, I ask them, because personal finance is personal, what would you want to do with this extra money? Even if it's like $200 extra in a month. Now that we've gotten rid of subscriptions, we freed up a couple $100 a year, right? Because that happens a lot too, freeing up the subscription money. So with that, let's say they say, man, I've always wanted to go on this vacation. I've always wanted to have this item, right? Personal finance, y'all, is personal. You do what you want with your little extra money, because guess what? We are here today and gone tomorrow. Life is but a vapor. And no, that's not an excuse to be irresponsible. But what it is once you have actually created a budget, a system, you're saving, you're investing, you're doing the things, right? And you're growing wealth. If you got extra, it's just like I just told you with the story with Ireland, like, go do something for you. Whatever that something looks like. Maybe it looks like the pocketbook, or for the gentleman, maybe it looks like the Knicks game courtside. You know what I'm saying? But what I will say, because in your example, you also named off a car, right? Mm-hmm. You got to make sure that you're not making long-term bondage decisions with your finances as a way to splurge because you're doing good. In other words, don't go leasing a car you really can't afford to lease because, oh, but I'm doing good. No, because now you're not doing good, because now you're leasing, which is one of the most expensive ways to own a car, So it's just, you want to still be wise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you explain, you also add life insurance, which is sometimes a taboo to when we're talking about finances. Can you explain life insurance? Why is it important, and why are people getting it wrong?
Oh, come on. All right. Let me talk to a husband out there, right? And just remember, Karlesha Hewitt here, Wisdom Child Consulting. We sell life insurance. Just remember that. So husband, you're coming home from work. You had a long day. You decide to stop at the gas station, right? You want to go get some gas, fill up for the next day. Great. Your wife asks you, hey, go to the grocery store, pick me up this for dinner. So you get to the gas station, fine. It starts to rain. Now you go to the grocery store, and on your way there, the car in front of you stops short. And just like that, you're gone. You've gone to be with Jesus. You're in heaven. You decease. Your wife just talked to you on the phone. She gets a phone call from the police, and she is crying because all she can hear is, he's gone. Just like that. No man knows the hour or the time. And then as she's in her misery, in her distraught state, she begins to call family members, and she's frozen. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know where to begin. She's got to plan a funeral. And that funeral is going to cost anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000. She has the mortgage. Y'all just bought a house last year, or you were saving to buy a house. You guys got little Jimmy. You got a child, right? He's got college to go to in just a few short years. And she only has access to what you have in the bank account because you did not buy life insurance. Okay. That's scene one. Different scene, same story. She's in her misery. She's really sad. She calls the family members. She's got to plan a funeral that costs $10,000 to $20,000. Little Jimmy's got to go to college in another 5 years. Your mortgage you still owe $295K on the mortgage, and you had $1 million life insurance policy in place that you were spending $200 a month on for the past 10 years. Never saw this coming, never thought you would decease, but it happened just like that. Your wife calls the life insurance company. She sends them a copy of your death certificate. And in about 2 to 3 months, they release a check to her, cash-free, value-free, tax-free is what I'm trying to say. And she uses that money to pay for the funeral. She uses that money to cover your child's college fund years and years later. She uses that money to pay off the house and move to a new location because she just couldn't stand to live in a house that you guys got together. And she lives off of the excess. She invests. She has a business, and all of this in the name of her husband, who was responsible enough, who loved her well enough to purchase life insurance. Here's another scene. Last scene, okay? You with me, Marcus?
I'm here. I'm with you.
Scene. Because life insurance is not only just a tool that can be used to pay off a death benefit for the funeral expenses, it also has living benefits if you purchase something like a whole life insurance policy or an IUL, an index universal life insurance policy, both considered permanent life insurance policies. They come with living benefits. So here's a third scene. You fall ill, you come home, you start having a pain in your chest, you go to the doctors and come to find out you're diagnosed with a terminal illness. Some life insurance policies offer terminal illness living benefits, which means that if you get this certain diagnosis while you're paying for life insurance, they will allow you to gain access to the death benefit while you're alive to cover your treatment, to cover your living situation while you're fighting this terminal illness, and to cover you if you have to go to hospice or something like that. Your family does not feel the financial burden of a diagnosis like chronic illness, terminal illness, because you were wise enough to buy life insurance that had living benefits attached to it, okay? Last scene, okay? And there's more of this. I can do this all day, but this is just to give you guys a sense, okay? Last scene. You want to retire and want to be comfortable in your retirement. Your job has a pension, and that's all good and great, but also that's not enough. That's not going to be enough. You and your wife, you guys want to go on vacations when you retire. You want to live in Florida. You want to sell your house and go to Florida. You want to live comfortable and still have enough money for your kids' college funds. And so because you were wise enough to have life insurance, an index universal life policy, you were mirroring the stock market and not sharing in the losses of the stock market. Instead, every time the stock market went up, your investment went up in an index universal life policy, which means that if you were to pass away tomorrow, you get the death payout. But as long as you're still living, there's a piece of your premium payment that you pay every month that goes towards investing. And it grows in cash value so that by the time you turn 70 years old, you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars to pull from to invest in a business, to invest in whatever it is that you want to do as a living benefit. So I strongly encourage all of you guys to get life insurance. Hopefully you I caught your attention with why it's so important. It's so important because it prepares your family when you leave to be able to sustain themselves despite losing your salary or your income. Or if you're single and unmarried like me, it just becomes a major blessing to your bloodline. The Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. This is a very easy way to leave some money into your bloodline. But again, prepare them first, right? With financial literacy education. But life insurance is so valuable, and it's just an easy way to infuse money and wealth into your bloodline. That's my answer. That was long, but I hope you caught it.
I did catch it. I want to give you my old employer. So I used to be licensed to sell life insurance, whole life. I used to sell, and this was a funny situation with my previous employer many moons ago. His wife, when we were having a conversation, he was buying some life insurance for her, and they had two different numbers in their heads. The wife had said, "Oh yeah, we'll get $1 million," and that's not the number the husband shared with me. So I said, "Ma'am, go talk to your husband about that number. That's not what he told me that he's buying today." And so he comes back and they start debating in front of me. What was the husband wanted to give her about $500,000 in life insurance. And his justification was she's young enough to remarry. Why would I fund her new husband's lifestyle?
Wow.
So the pushback is, what would you say to the client who you're talking to, the wife, the husband, the couple,
Mhm.
on buying life insurance, and you're using the love analogy? What if something happens to me? What if she's 35 and she's quote unquote young enough to remarry? Does she
Mhm.
need $1 million, or is she young enough? She has a master's degree. She has several master's degree. She can go work. She can go love
Wow.
someone else and remarry. Why would I fund that new lifestyle for that new husband?
I got to tell you, I'm going to say something very cold. Now, first of all, I never heard of this before. This is interesting. I'm like, do you even really love her? Because if you love your wife, and I'm thinking about Tony Evans, Pastor Tony Evans just lost his wife, and his wife basically told him she doesn't want him to be alone. She encouraged him to remarry. He ultimately is remarried today in his elderly years, right? Because she didn't want her husband to die alone. To me, that's love, right? The Bible permits the husband or the widow to remarry too. So it's also biblical for those who are believers out there listening. What I would say concerning this scenario is I would encourage the husband to just think through, right? How can you love her best? So what if she is capable of remarrying? Wouldn't you want to leave your wife and children, if you have any, with as much as you possibly can, so long as you can afford the monthly payment? Why would you cap that out because of somebody else falling in love with the same woman you fell in love with, right? So I just don't understand that thinking at all. I think love is love, and if you love someone, you want to secure them for as long as possible, with or without you. Whatever they do next, I mean, hopefully you can trust them enough to do well with what you leave them, right? But at the end of the day, if that's your wife right there today, prepare for her future, even if her future is without you. It ain't her fault you died.
Fair enough.
You
Fair
know,
enough.
that's a tough one, man. There's people out there that probably think like that too. That's the crazy thing.
My boss thought like that. That is literally, this is real. He
That's
literally said
deep.
to his wife that she's young enough to remarry. And when you,
Oof.
and so when we've gone away from this, we're no longer doing this. We're no longer marrying women in their 20s, right?
Right.
We're
Times
getting
have changed.
married. We're getting married later, right?
Mhm.
We're foregoing marriage and having babies at a much older age. But
Mhm.
when you marry a 20-year-old and I pass away and she's 21,
Right, right, right.
that's where his logic stems from. So it's an interesting debate
How
that
did that shake out? I'm so
it,
curious.
they're still married, if that's what you, they're still married,
How much did
but
he get life insurance?
they didn't get, they got what he paid for.
Ooh.
So he got the 500,000 because based off of his analogy, she has two master's degrees. They live in, the car is paid for, college is paid for our daughters,
Mm,
because they have policies that he set in place, some cash value policies for them.
right.
And she doesn't need $1 million+ to reset her life. You're gonna he made it out in his will. You're gonna put me in this urn. You're gonna cremate me. That's about $5,000. What do you do with the $995,000 that I left you? He equated that that's not a steward of his money, and that's not a steward for his life. She really needs just 500K to
Marcus,
be
can we
great.
play? Can we play red flag, green flag again? Red flag. Sis. Pray for him and red flag though. Yes,
Red flag, red
that's a red
flag. Okay.
flag.
It was such an interesting dialogue to witness.
Wow.
This has been an incredible conversation. I want to say to you, Miss Hewitt, you've dropped so many nuggets this episode, so many gems this episode. If you had to give our audience one more nugget, if you had one more nugget in the hat, what would you say to that young man, that young girl watching you right now, feeling discouraged? Their back is against the wall. They got student loans to pay. The car note is due. Rent is due. What would you say to them right now watching you? Any advice?
Simple as can be, you have to start. That's how you finish well. You have to start. It's never too late to start. There's no horrible amount of circumstances that can prevent you from starting. It's really on you. You can sit at your kitchen table. You can look at the bills that you've been avoiding. You can crunch some numbers or just list it out. Who do I owe and how much do I owe? And just start. Begin to Google, right? Investigate. But the biggest thing that I want to tell you is start to get financially literate, start to lock into teachings, whether Money Talks Academy, anything else out there, it runs the gamut. There's so much information out there. We are without excuse, right? But don't let your shame or your embarrassment keep you from starting. Start. And the sooner you start, the better, because compound interest. Start.
How can people find you? How can people learn more? The train has left the station, but it's not too late for us to hop on board
Come
and
on.
get the knowledge. How can people find you? How can people connect?
You can find me on Instagram. My business page is at Wisdom Child Consulting. You can find me, my personal page on Instagram at the letter K Speaks Life. Like I said, I minister the gospel of Jesus Christ as a lifestyle. So I teach, I worship in song, I do faith-based poetry, and I just love sharing the message of the gospel. And so you can lock in there with that. I also have Money Talks Academy cohort, June 2026. I do have a cohort coming up. So depending on when this airs, you can lock in on Eventbrite or the link in my bio. Otherwise, just keep staying tuned for what I'm going to be offering virtually for those of you in Virginia and beyond. Keep on following that Instagram. And in the next couple of months, I will have a website. So you should also check out wisdomchildconsulting.com in the next couple of months.
Absolutely. Connect.
Yes, lock in.
Absolutely. For our audio listeners, that's wisdomchildconsulting.com. If you can't spell that, reach out to me. I'll get the links. If I'll get it to
They should
you.
be able to spell that.
I hope so. But I don't want to discriminate. If you can't spell it, reach out to me. I will connect you to her. Miss Hewitt, I want to say this to you publicly. Never quit. We need you. We need what you're doing. You're on a mission. It's fabulous. Don't quit. Don't stop. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, y'all. We got to let this incredible woman go. She has many more lives to change. She has many more people to impact and many more hikes and vacations to go on.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
like we end every show, I hope this message was valuable. I hope this was insightful. Take care of your friends. Take care of your family. And always, always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman, and the super fragilistic, expialidocious Miss Karlesha Hewitt signing off. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.